Hi, I'm Tamara Page, founder of Discover and Recover wellness workout programs. I'm looking forward to sharing my experience of yoga, movement, mindfulness, and meditation with you. As an E.R.Y.T, experienced registered yoga teacher at the 500-hour level, I've had the opportunity over the last 30 years to work with multiple individuals, and as a result, inspired to create and design a program for wellness workout. Today we'll be experiencing a program designed for aging gracefully. And as we do so, I encourage you to discover and awaken to your highest self, cultivate creativity, enhance self-confidence, and recover from anything that might be blocking you or hold you back. So as we go through this program, it's very important to follow the alignment principles, modify as needed, and remember to have fun. Namaste. Welcome to the Yoga Coach series for the wellness workout featuring mindfulness, movement, meditation, as well as yoga. I'm Tamara Page, E.R.Y.T, at the 500-hour level. And I am really looking forward to sharing my 30 years of experience as a practitioner, as well as an instructor with you. Today's episode will feature balance. Better balance of body, mind, and spirit. And I would like to recommend that for today's practice that you reach for a chair of some sort, as well as a belt. It can be a yoga belt or even a bathrobe belt, but just make sure that you have a chair and you have a belt handy before we get started. And then once you have that available, we're going to go to the center of the mat. And I thought that before we start balancing and using a lot of muscular energy, that we would just take a moment with a little bit of movement just to loosen up. So I'm going to recommend that you go just a little wider than the hips with the feet. Take your hands to the fronts of the thighs and just get some movement. Let your thighs and your hips and your ribs just start to move a little clockwise. Start to loosen up any tightness. We'll go counterclockwise. Get that going the other direction. So you slowly start to release anything that might be constricting us. And then from there, we're going to take the left hand, take it over to your right hip, and then in behind, do the same. So it's a tap and a bend. One side and the other. And if you're going the opposite direction, that's just fine. Just get some movement, so you're tapping these points. And we'll take the next tap a little higher, right up to the rib cage in the front and the back near the kidneys. Bending and tapping. And again, just moving from side to side, releasing anything that might be constricting us. Once more, and make a little light fist as you tap the lungs, chest, and go to the other side. Get in the back as well, right near the kidney. Keep those lungs open, keep them nice and clear, and let your ribs move with you, just so we can start to loosen and release. Beautiful. Now as we come on down, we're going to pivot the right foot out, bend over, give a little reach, take your arm out, and then bend the elbow. We're going to hold the bent elbow back into the shoulder blade, reach back. Now get some movement as we reach and lengthen the spine. And coming back around, hooking that shoulder blade. Once more, take it over. Get a full extension, back and down. And then pivot to the opposite side. start with the bend. Again, elbow bent, and reach and roll. Engage the shoulder blade, take it back, and reach over. And it feels so good just to loosen up. We have a lot of shoulder overuse, so in yoga, it's really meaningful to loosen up a little bit beforehand. And then we can take the shoulder roll with both arms. Up, open, chest, heart, lungs, open. Give a little bend as you come down. Draw the shoulder blades onto the back. And once again, lift and lengthen the side body as you open the chest. Get the shoulder blades in, soften the ribs, take it down. One more time. And this time we'll hold. Feel that shoulder blade action in the back, and then slowly reach the arms all the way out to the sides into your fingertips. Big extension. Fullness of chest, heart, and lungs. Open. Breathe into that. If you recall, nostril breathing lightly at the base of the nostrils and lightly back out. And slowly bring the elbows in, and as we do that, we're going to walk the feet in. Bring the feet right under the hips. And as you do so, palms come together. We're going to look down at the feet and make sure that we are balanced in all four corners of the feet. So just take your hands back to your thighs and play with the positioning of your feet. Maybe you'll lift your toes up a little bit, spread them apart, wake them up, and then gently place those toes back onto the mat as we engage in what we call the four corners of the feet. Wonderful. So we're going to take a moment and gently press the feet into the earth as we scoop the tailbone in and lift and lengthen. Right? Root the lower body down. Remember our Tadasana. We reviewed that last week. So it was a gentle tuck and a tilt, and then a lengthening action, getting that extension in the spine. Let the shoulders come onto the back and the arms fall down by the sides. And as we're standing tall in mountain pose or Tadasana, rooting into the earth, I want you to gently glide your ribs back some. Soften your throat, soften the skin around the eyes, and let's just take a moment of stillness in this very strong pose and find the rhythm of our breath. Start to find a focal point with your eyes. We call this a drishti. So find a focal point so you can just focus on that spot in today's segment on each balancing pose. So when you find your drishti, soften your eyes, soften your breath. Hold the inner body strong, lengthen, and let the outer body soften. So you feel your shoulders sliding down your blades in the back. And practice that breath just for a moment. Wonderful. Now as we take the arms into it, we're going to reach out in front, give a little bend of the elbows, and hug into the rib cage. With the fingers spread, reach out in front, out in front. Draw the heads of the arm bones back and palms facing one another. So we're going to go from Tadasana into Urdhva Hastasana. So we're still rooting into the earth. Lower body is rooting as the upper body is now extending and rising up and stretching away from the lower body. But the shoulder blades want to soften onto the back. So as you situate yourself. You can feel free to re-engage any parts of your alignment that might help you to strengthen, to lengthen, or to soften wherever is needed. So it's not a one and done. It's just a continual process of being very skillful. And once you feel settled into your Urdhva Hastasana, we'll take a few breaths in this pose. Breathing in gently and breathing back out. Keep that throat soft. Keep the eyes soft. And gently release as we bring the palms together for a centering breath, a recovery breath. Just take a moment to be at ease after holding that pose. And from there, we'll give a little bend to the knees, just a slight bend, and taking our first balance into Utkatasana, or air chair. So notice that I'm bending right at the hip, and I'm going to have an imaginary seat, an imaginary chair, as I engage my feet into the earth and find that little bit of an inner spiral and last week's tilt and tuck. You can just play with that until you feel that you're engaged in the core. And we're going to hold this by taking the arms from the sides of the ribs and slowly engaging the shoulders onto the back and seating ourselves in our imaginary air chair, or Utkatasana. And again, softly sliding the shoulder blades down the back, gliding those ribs in and feeling the softness of your breath. And once you settle into it, we'll take a nice gentle breath in, followed by that long, slow, steady exhalation back out. Holding Utkatasana in balance, in center, strengthening the body, softening the mind and the spirit. Beautiful. Now bring the palms in and we'll start to reach up. So as we come down, I would now recommend, if you haven't brought your chair next to you, to please go ahead and scoot that chair in so that it's handy, and you might want to have it just a little bit behind you so that when we start balancing, it's not completely in the way, but it's just enough so that if you need to reach for something for your balance, it's here and it's available. So from that place of being in balance, remember, balancing requires muscular strength, just like you would be making a muscle with your elbows if you needed to use upper body strength. The same thing applies to balancing principles. So if we're soft and, just like in our warm-up, loosey-goosey, balance is going to reflect that. So the stronger our muscular energy and the more engaged we are, the better chance we're going to have of having a stronger, solid foundation for balance. So how we go about that are the same principles alignment that were used last week in last week's episode, starting from the root of the feet, finding those four corners. Make sure your feet are just about hip width apart. And with the knees a little bent, you can start to tilt and tuck. And that way you're working from your core. Now, as I'm tilting, tucking, I'm starting to hug the skin onto the muscle, onto the bone as I slowly straighten those knees. So take your fingertips and just touch your thighs, touch your hamstrings, touch your quadriceps, touch everything, and make sure that you feel nice and solid and strong versus once more, right? Touching and gently tucking the tailbone in. I'm engaging, hugging the skin onto the muscle, onto the bone, feeling everything tighten out and get engaged. And then the lengthening of the side body begins to join this movement. Now we should be ready to shift the weight onto the right side. So it's just a gentle shift of the weight, and maybe you're holding on to your chair, or maybe not, but we'll start with the foot going just below the knee. This is a pose called Vrikshasana, or tree pose. And rather than having the knee point forward, we want it to be as much as possible out to the side. So that engaged action in the standing leg. And if you have your hand on your chair, you can certainly begin to release, play with the possibility of taking your hand on and off your chair, just to get used to the idea of balancing. Now, if you are a seasoned practitioner and you're very comfortable with taking your foot up a little bit higher, you might want to take your hand, reach for the front of your shin, and just put your foot right inside that thigh and practice at this posture. This is not for everyone, so we have different levels of different practitioners. So find the spot that is most meaningful for you, and then play with the possibility of taking your hands off the chair and bringing the palms back into the center. So as we hold our balance, we want to make sure we're engaging and getting strong and long as we hold that. That's it. Take your breath, find your drishti, your focal point, and then slowly play with the possibility of opening your branches and reaching all the way up. If that's too much for you, modify. And when you start to fall off balance, hug it a little tighter. See if you can get a little longer and bring the palms down. Slowly release. Okay, beautiful. Before we go to the second side, I'd like to remind everyone, including myself, not to be frustrated if we fall off balance. In fact, I encourage that, because in order to regain balance, we have to challenge ourselves and become off balance. So if you fall a little bit off balance, it could be attributed to the fact that maybe you didn't sleep well last night, or your day's a little bit off balance, or maybe it's just something that needs to happen. And whenever we fall off balance, not to get frustrated by that, but simply, if you find yourself falling out of balance, if you're in a pose and suddenly you think you're in balance and here you are, and you just fall out, just reposition, take your foot down and start over again and again and again. That is the beauty of a practice, because there's nothing to achieve, there's nothing special that we have to do, there's no goal. It's just a practice, right? So I want for you to feel comfortable with practicing again and again and again. I often take my students outside, especially now in the COVID times, and we practice in the most impractical places where the ground is not level. Sometimes we go in the water with the current, pulling and shifting us, and boy, does that throw us off balance. But the more you practice in an environment that's unstable, the stronger your balance will become over time. So again, don't get discouraged, just practice and have fun, enjoy it. So we're going to take a moment, loosen it all up, and softly come back down into that starting position of a little tilt and a tuck as we root down and rise up. And this time we're going to shift the weight to the opposite side. So whatever side you did before, do the opposite. And you might want to start by just positioning your hand and your foot wherever is appropriate for you, whether it's down below the knee or whether it's above the knee. And of course, one side may feel completely different than the other, and that's to be expected. So once you have engaged and you know that you're feeling strong muscular energy and you can tighten it all up, I encourage you to play with the possibility of releasing your hand, right? Maybe just take that off and give it a try. And if you fall out of balance, so be it. That's just fine. Just play for a moment, practice engaging, find your focal point, breathe into it. Right? You can always, off balance, reach for your chair. You see, that's what it's all about. Starting again and again. Learning to reposition and get back into the balance. So now maybe we'll take it up a little bit higher, reaching up, engaging all the way up. Get space between the ribs, breathe into it. And if it's too much to throw your arms into it, do whatever is comfortable. And bring your palms back together and release. Take a recovery breath or two. And then release. Okay, so we're going to take another posture featuring the bird of the Garudasana. We're not going to take the entire pose today because that would require the lower body as well as the upper body. So I think we're going to start today just with the lower body. And I'm going to invite you to bend your knee on the outer leg. So this would be the left leg. As you bend your right knee, just slip that knee over. And again, if you have knee issues, please refrain from doing this or modify. The traditional pose, you take your foot and you hook it around the calf. If that's too much, just bend the knee and hold it here and play. One or the other. But I want for you to try to get that tight, constricted feeling as you hug in here. That's it, as we're hugging in here. And again, play with the possibility of bringing your palms together and holding that. If that's too much, go back to your chair. So over time, when we do bring the arms into it, and we're not actually teaching that today, but I'll just show you, over time the arms will cross in front, and this would be the full pose. So we're breaking it down today and just playing with bits and pieces. So you can put one thumb toward the heart center if you like, or you can put two. There's all kinds of variations. Just breathe into it and then release. And take a recovery breath or two. So before we go to the second side, I'm so happy that we're practicing our balancing poses because life is becoming more and more a little unstable these days. People have a tendency to walk down the sidewalk, fall. If you practice your balance poses, you can possibly catch yourself before you fall or in the midst of a fall, just by having trained your body to do this. So the benefits are extraordinary. So let's just enjoy the practice, not trying to achieve anything, just the practice of learning to balance. So as you bend the knee, drop down. Maybe you're hooking your foot behind your calf, maybe not, whichever is appropriate for you. Possibly playing with your palms coming together, or maybe one palm If you're a more seasoned practitioner and you want to take the full pose, and if you know what you're doing, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, let's just explore here. Right? In Garudasana, this mighty bird. Breathe in, breathe out, and then release. And another recovery breath. Arms fall down by the sides. So as we finish off, and I encourage you to pick one or two of these poses every day and just practice a little balance for 3 minutes each day. So as we go back to Tadasana, or mountain pose, just take a moment and ease yourself back into it. Feel the rhythm of your breath. You want to feel that mightiness of being grounded into the earth, reaching for the stars, everything in between spacious. So, in life, there are always curveballs, always things coming our way. And the more we learn to balance physically, it helps us with the challenges come mentally. So I strongly encourage you to enjoy your balance practice, and again, just go through the process day after day. Pick one or two and have fun. Until next week, I'll look forward to seeing you, and thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.